to Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde, the president of a pressure group known as the Renewed Uganda. So we shall be discussing that, and we get right away into this interview. Good morning, Mr. Arthur.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me here today, this morning. It's actually good to see you again. I've been out on the campaign trail, but to come back here at Record TV is always a joy. Record TV is my home, as you know.
Well, I know many of you could wonder why he's saying Record TV's home. Arthur has actually previously worked here as the head of news and current affairs. He's also a communication specialist and, of course, a journalist with vast experience in this field. So it's a pleasure for me to share and interact with people like him. How is the Renewed Uganda? How is everything going in the Henry Tumukunde camp?
This morning, everything is going to plan. Everything is going to plan. Remember, we are working with somebody who's a military general. He makes sure that most, or if not all, the things that he's dealing with, he's had a look through. He has had a double look through. So at the moment, the campaign is going well. This morning we're in the Sebei region in Buko, Kapchora, and Kwen. So yeah, the campaign is going well, and the general is out there putting out the message that he wishes for the people of Uganda to hear from him.
What do you make of the 5 weeks, the campaigns in general, not specifically General Tumukunde, but assessing the situation in the country? You know, there's been a time when violence has erupted, when one of the presidential candidates was arrested. We saw General Tumukunde as well halting his campaign. So a lot has actually happened within the 5 weeks that we've so far moved in these campaigns. What do you make of that process?
The 5 weeks, let me first of all speak about our campaign. The 5 weeks, I was with the campaign for part of it. Then I had to come back to Kampala for other official duties. On our side, it has been a pleasure actually going out there and meeting the people and speaking to them and hearing of their problems and also of their aspirations. I remember we were in towns like Mbara, we were in towns, I mean, we had problems, but we're towns like Mbara, towns like Fort Poto, and villages in between Hima, and Kazo, Rushere. It was quite humbling actually to be there with these people, with the local population, and actually hearing of their problems, and as I said, of their aspirations. See, very many people believe or think that elections are all about actually trying to solve people's problems, but it's also trying to improve on their aspirations. So that is it. And also personally, watching General Tumukunde close at hand at work. I'm 20 years younger than that man, but the amount of energy that he's got is just incredible. As I said, one of the things that personally I would like to, for most Ugandans to know about General Tumukunde is a man that I've got to know since before he asked me to go and work for him. Because when he asked me to go and work for him, to be honest, I only knew General Tumukunde as this general on television, and actually then getting to work with him. It's been quite a humbling experience. On the general status of the campaigns, I must say, and I really halt when I think about this. I think we should be ashamed for the violence that's been meted out on opposition parties. It should not happen. It should not happen. And General Tumukunde has condemned it in the utmost strongest terms. I mean, you mentioned about when Honorable Chagulanyi was arrested and we had violence in Kampala, and we had to halt our campaign. It was not an easy decision. I remember sitting in a room with General Tumukunde and others when he agonized about it, but he had to take that position with others. So, and then for me also the other thing that has, that I'm agonizing about, I'm one of those people who likes telling people about policy. Unfortunately, in this campaign, policy has been drowned out in the violence and all the other things that are happening. So you get any candidate, especially the opposition candidates, if they're going out to talk about their campaigns and what they aspire for Uganda, and everything descends into violence, tear gas, people running. Unfortunately, we've had people losing their lives, and that is tragic in its sense. But the person who's losing is the average Ugandan, because they've not heard. Because it's about ideas.
Mr. Arthur Katabalwa, I would love to understand. Your candidate is on record condemning, actually, in Ududa yesterday, he came out condemning President Museveni's overstaying power, saying it's over 34 years of service and there is need to retire. But Tumukunde has been part of the 34 years all through since 1986, and he has served in different positions in government. Would he have the moral authority to condemn anybody overstaying in power? Because he actually wants to also extend his being in power, now assuming president at the topmost seat, which is the presidency.
No, you see. You've got to look at this. There are several issues here we're talking about. One of the issue that you're talking about, which is quite pertinent, is the stay in power of President Yoweri Museveni for over 3 decades. I mean, he came into power when I was in P7, and when I was in my P7 VAC, and that's ages ago. I mean, you've had people who were born then and they've got kids themselves. Now. The thing that many people have actually questioned General Tumukunde, myself included, because when he asked me to go and work for him, I had my own reservations, is his association with the government for the past 34 years. But the thing is that his argument has been that Mwai Kibaki and the others worked with Moi for as long as they did. Does that then preclude people who have been with a certain government or been with the system from running for the topmost positions? And the thing is that a friend of mine, I forgot who it was exactly. I don't know whether you read the Bible. I sometimes read it.
Yes, I do.
But there's a story. There's a story of Moses and the Israelites taking the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses was part of the establishment when he took the Israelites out of slavery. I'm not trying to really equate General Tumukunde to Moses, because, but what I'm saying is that you need somebody who actually understands the system. We need somebody who understands the system. General Tumukunde, in my view, knows where all the corners are and knows where knows how the system works. So, with a system that's been around for 34 years and it's quite entrenched, there is. In our view, that there is the need to have somebody who has a steady hand at the team, because if the government were to change and Museveni were to lose the next elections, it's just not going to be a swift thing like that. The whole system is reflective of his ideas, so it will be actually quite dangerous just to think, oh, we're going to depart straight away from what Museveni has said. There are so many things. So you need somebody who actually understands how the system has worked. And for me, I think that person is General Henry Tumukunde.
During the beginning of these campaigns, especially in the western part of Uganda, General Tumukunde was interrupted in his campaigns, especially by the Uganda police on so many occasions, which is not happening. I saw lately in the northern part of Uganda, in the West Nile region, and currently in the Bugisu sub-region where he is. His campaigns have actually gone on well. So, have you really made peace with the security agencies?
No, you've got to understand the character of the man. That is General Tumukunde. You've got to understand the character of the man. In the West, in Western, I mean, we had police stopping us getting into Chisoro. We had police interrupting our campaigns in Mbarara. We had police in Tungamo. In so many, I mean, Bundibujo, who were stopped several kilometers out of the town. Yet there was one campaign event that was planned for Bundibujo, but were stopped. I don't know, about 15 kilometers out of the town, and were shown to a play park for kids, which was completely inappropriate for a campaign. Now, the thing is that you need to understand how a campaign works. You need to understand how getting information to the public works. In so many ways, we have discovered that people understand and accept your ideas better if they are in their own area or in the comfort of their homes or shops. And in so many times, I remember we were driving through we were driving from Ibanda, and what we did was start stopping at these small towns, and people were more receptive. Now, you're going to realize that the general, and some of us, some other people call him Afande, has actually adopted many of these tactics to avoid the large population areas, because everywhere we're going, we're being interrupted. Even when we are done, we had gone through the legal steps of actually informing the security agencies and the EC what we're going to do in Kasese.
Still looking at this 34-year association, which is now part of Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde's DNA, how are we certain we are not just having a M7 replica, and how different is he from his colleague?
This is something that we are, and the General is pushing quite intently. It seems that some people have decided to have a selective mind or selective memory. You do realize that General Tumukunde has not really been playing by the ball. He rejected. He is. I think one of the things that really formed his political stance was when he worked when he was in the CA. General Tumukunde is very intent and very insistent on constitutionalism. And because of that stance and his insistence on constitutionalism, that's brought him problems with the government. He has been imprisoned because he has rejected the idea of the extension of term limits, the extension of the abolition of the age limit. All these things have brought him into problems. You know that when he was an MP representing the army, he decided to speak in Parliament. And my understanding is that the army have had an audio from the president. He was not happy that his thought then was that all soldiers who are representing the army in Parliament should keep quiet. And that is not General Tumukunde. So yes, he's been with the government, and yes, you say it's within his DNA. But let us first of all understand the independence of mind that General Tumukunde has. But then also let's recognize his achievements. So yes, he's been in the government. He's been in the government for 34 years. He's a soldier at heart, or retired one at that. But he has independence of mind, and that's something that people need to recognize.
Well, General Tumukunde was campaigning in the Karamoja region, which was last week. He was actually talking about when voted into power, taking around the people of Karamoja to tour the country such that maybe they can copy what others are doing to civilize. Can't one take this as an insult or demeaning the people of Karamoja?
the thing is, you need to understand that General Tumukunde has got a problem. It's actually said here in our manifesto. There's one of the things that he is intent on eradicating, that is poverty. Now, we need to understand that if you don't know how things are done elsewhere, you think you're doing things the best way. I'm not trying to denigrate cultural norms. I'm not trying to say people are backward. But the thing is that we need to get a Uganda, and this is again a stance by General Tumukunde. We need to get a Uganda that is competitive economically and socially. So the thing is, we don't want to have a situation where you have regions which are not balanced. He always talks about the grass-thatched hut. I don't know whether yourself has seen one in recent years, but when you see one, it really hits you home, and how poor some people are, and we do have a lot of these in the north. It's a fact. So the thing is, we need to get Uganda, which has got uniform economic development. So if you have, I'm not entirely aware of the exact comments he made, but the thing is that for me, my understanding of the way he thinks is that we need to get Uganda in a situation whereby people are not left behind. And if you show people what others are doing, it can only be good for them.
Mr. Museveni is a foster general in the military, and Lieutenant General Tumukunde is a 3-star general, and these are generals. A general is always a general. So don't you think it's time for Uganda to get a civilian president? Don't you think, isn't the country ready? Is that what you think?
You do realize Henry Tumukunde is a civilian. He's retired. He's no longer an army man.
But once a general, you're always a general.
Yes,
you can never be a civilian. You can't deny the fact that Mr. Museveni is still a 4-star general.
Yes, but General Tumukunde, I'm not going to speak for Yoweri Museveni. I'm speaking for Tumukunde. He's a civilian. So he has the right, like any other Ugandan, to contest for the highest position in the country. The thing is that I think the fact that he's a general should actually work in his favor, that he's been in the army up to that rank. I've actually sat next to him. I don't know whether he actually felt my eyes burning the back of his head. I'm thinking, this man has seen things most of us would never want to see in a lifetime. These are people who have seen their friends die on the battlefield. So, but to go back to your question, he is a retired general. He's no longer in the UPDF, so he's a civilian.
Well, that's Arthur Katabarwa for you. He's the spokesperson of the Renewed Uganda, a pressure group headed by one Lieutenant General Henry Kakurugu Tumukunde, who is contesting on an independent ticket for the presidency of Uganda. They are trying to dismiss argument saying that Tumukunde is a civilian, yet on several occasions on record is quoted reminding Ugandans how he's an army, of course, general veteran. We take a short commercial break. The Daybreaker returns shortly. My name is John Jimmy Musimbe. Do stay with us.
Hello, how are you? Tell me, how do you do? We're here to show some appreciation for the things you do. Sent you for today, and they sent you for tomorrow. Sent you for every time and everywhere you go. We love you so, and we enjoy life with you. We are happy, happy, happy to know that we will go with you. That's why we say, thank you, thank you, thank you, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for choosing MTN. Use MTN Mobile Money, bundles or other services to get Thank You points. The more you use, the more Thank You points you get. We look forward to many more years together. Thank you.
Hello everyone, greetings from Simba Automotives Limited. I am Repeal Jim, the corporate manager. I'm here to talk about our UG Boss motorcycles. We have a UG Boss off-road motorcycle called UG Boss Pro. It's a 125cc off-road motorcycle, 5 gears, both kick and self.
I would like to talk about the scooter. The scooter is a very, very good town service bike. It's very good for ladies and also gentlemen who want to move around town easily. It consumes very little and the spare parts are readily available.
We also have business motorcycles. We have the UG Boss 100cc boda boda. Nungi nnyo mu kola sente mu business ya boda boda. Pichipichi enywa kitono, pichipichi etambula distance nene. Tulina pichipichi gye tuyita Sumo 200 tricycle oba tukutuku. Eno pichipichi ya migugu nungi nnyo mu kola sente abatambuza ebyamaguzi. Pichipichi eno mwali badde mugyeyunira. Ku ebyo byonna kambagalize amazaalibwa amalungi n'omwaka omujja ogw'emirembe.
Our security systems, we ensure that your security is guaranteed. Bank on us to protect and secure your interests. We offer services like K9, VIP protection, guard services, electronic services, surveillance, and so much more. Contact us on 0392 178100 or 0707 531000. When you need security, you can rely on us.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you've just joined us, you're watching the Daybreak morning show here on Record TV. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi, and my guest this morning is Arthur Katabalwa, who is the spokesperson of General TUMUKUNDE'S Renewed Uganda Pressure Group, discussing the journey to State House, trying to see whether Uganda's opposition has the capacity to actually beat or defeat General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in the coming general elections, but also looking at General TUMUKUNDE'S footsteps. Where has he moved during the 34 years of relating with the ruling party, and what he has to offer actually on table for Ugandans that is different, that Ugandans should base on to give him a vote. Now, yesterday, while General TUMUKUNDE was campaigning in Bobulo East, and that is Namisindwe district, in the Bugisu sub-region where I actually hail from in Manafa. Those are near, Bulo East was part of Manafa, but then it was cut and now it's under Namisindwa district. He made comments trying to ask the people of Namisindwa probably comments about Kyagulanyi. But before I probably move there, I would love to understand, is Lieutenant General Kakrogo Tumukunde fighting Kyagulanyi or other opposition politicians? Of course, it wouldn't be surprising because they are in the same race and everyone wants to get to State House.
Let me be absolutely certain on this. Henry Tumukunde is not in a battle with Honorable Kyagulanyi or anybody else on the opposition. As a matter of fact, they all have the same goal. That goal is to effect change in Uganda. Now, and I just wanted to get that absolutely clear and out of the way. There is no battle between General Tumukunde and Kyagulanyi or any other member of the opposition presidential
Mr.
candidate.
Arthur, if my producer is ready, I would love him to give me a clip of General Tumukunde speaking in Bali. I hope it's ready. Ronnie there, okay.
Njagala mukubire change mukyukeko lwakuba embeera esigadde nga bwemuko a very long time.
Bali bakana mulonde nga mukyusaho change imbeera irinda ita.
Ate abagisumanyi bwe musalamu.
Bali bakisunga mahala muli kwalobera muba mwalobera.
Mungambire looya wange Wameli.
Bali mubolere looya wenywe.
Nti mukama we tajja kumalako ku bya Uganda bino bibuzibu nnyo.
Muri musalo anamala ku bya Uganda tabirimo buzibu.
So mulonde leader ow'obusobozi ayinza kucrossinga Uganda kugitwala mu maaso.
What do you make of the comments from Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde there trying to tell the people of Namisindwa that go and tell your lawyer, of course even mentions the name, that's Counsel Anthony Wameli, who is the one of the official legal minds of the National Unity Platform, saying, hey, look, go tell your lawyer to tell his boss that he won't manage these things. He should leave them for us. And what do you make of such comments from Lieutenant General?
First of all,
isn't it a contradiction from what you've just said? Saying,
no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Battling anyone.
It isn't. It isn't. First of all, let me first. You do know that Wameli is their lawyer, both of them. He's General Tumukunde's lawyer, and he's Bobby Wine's lawyer. That is a fact. Now, we are in a presidential campaign. Now, the thing is, and actually, General Tumukunde and Bobby Wine are friends. You've watched the Kamyufu. You've watched the presidential elections, Kamyufu in the U.S. When you have members of the same party standing on the same stage, and actually in Uganda, it's the same thing here. We are in a presidential campaign. So if we cannot hold Honorable Kyagulanyi to task on issues of policy, not style, on issues of policy, then we might as well join Kyagulanyi's campaign. So the thing is that we need to understand where we are coming from. The thing is that these are two presidential campaigns. You've got Honorable Kyagulanyi's campaign, you've got Tumukunde's campaign, and you've got other campaigns. So, I've watched that clip quite a number of times. He was actually in a joking mood. But the thing is that you need to understand.
One take this as blackmail to raise to the top? Should politicians ride on blackmail to
No,
that's
not blackmail. That's not blackmail. The thing is that we are in a battle for ideas.
What's your basis for discrediting Kyagulanyi on policy matters?
We are
Isn't that blackmail?
No, it's not blackmail. We are in a presidential campaign. We are in a presidential campaign. What's the basis of a presidential campaign? You do have different policy matters. You do have different policy ideas which you put towards which you put to the electorate. Now, if you and I were in a campaign and I think that your policy ideas are not up to scratch, I'll say to the public. So I don't think, and this is what makes politics interesting. But when you go back onto when you actually understand the two men are actually friends, but they may have differing. They do have areas in policy that they differ, and yes, I'm not going to dismiss it. He said it; it's on record. His belief is that maybe Kyagulanyi may not be able to be an effective leader that Uganda needs. Is that supposed to be controversial?
Well, we leave that to the electorates to decide come January 14th, 2021, on who actually is going to make their president. You know, candidates are supposed to present issues to them and they decide on who they vote. Now, this election and campaign period has actually been marred by violence and chaos, especially rooting back to November 18th and 19th, where reportedly over 54 people were pronounced dead during the chaotic scenes seen in different towns across the country. And of course, many were injured. We saw foreign journalists being deported back to their countries. We saw local journalists being brutalized in different parts of the country. So I would love to understand how is the renewed Uganda or Lieutenant General Henry TUMUKUNDE'S team prepared to contribute to a free and fair elections come? Because, you know, as presidential candidates, they have a role to play. The people who always cause chaos in these campaigns are actually their supporters. I do not want to point out a single candidate because during the chaotic period, everyone was affected, regardless of which team one falls under. So as the renewed Uganda, as Lieutenant General TUMUKUNDE'S team, how are the preparations of ensuring that Ugandans go to a peaceful, free and fair elections without such ugly scenes like what was evidenced during the November 18th?
The renewed Uganda camp has protested on several occasions about the way the campaign is running in general. We have, I don't think, I'd want to find somebody who is going to characterize this campaign as free and fair. I would want to hear on what premises they are going to carry that on. But having said that, it is not in our gift to actually organize a free and fair campaign election. It is in the government's gift. It is Byamukama and his friends who are supposed to organize a free and fair campaign. It's not down to Renewed Uganda. We have said always that we want a free and fair campaign.
But of course, the Electoral Commission could say, yes, we are organizing a free and fair elections and ensure the process goes that way. But a particular candidate attempts maybe to rig the election or to cause chaos, because we've seen this. Elections are actually used as a trigger in most countries where you've seen coups, where you've seen leaders toppled. People always use advantage of the elections that probably they could cause chaos and say the incumbent has rigged this election. So we are disagreeing and just a minute to make this point clear.
Yes.
It's on record. General TUMUKUNDE has said he has a strategy for winning an election, whether it is rigged or not. A strategy he does not mention what it is, but he tells Ugandans to be calm and wait for January 14th. One would worry. So that's why if I ask you how you're prepared for a free and fair election, an electorate outside there really needs to understand your strategies of ensuring a free, peaceful and fair election.
I know this sounds very controversial to so many people. I'm of that generation who actually witnessed 1981. I was a kid, but I understood what was going on. Who precipitated the chaos that followed? Whose Akaluba Kabani? You may argue like that. Was it UPM? I don't think so. But that is a conversation that people don't want to have. Now, when you're talking about violence now, after this election, no, we are not. Renewed Uganda is not saying we want violence. That is far from it. Our intent and our goal is to make sure that people understand what General TUMUKUNDE and Renewed Uganda stand for, that they go and vote for Renewed Uganda on January the 14th. But there's one thing that the General says, Akalumukakume, because we have a history of elections which have been contested. I don't have proof to say that they are rigged. Personally.
Which system General TUMUKUNDE has been part of as a chief government spy and of course a senior intelligence officer. He must have participated, because in the previous elections where he has, actually in 2016, General TUMUKUNDE was a chief mobilizer of General Yoweri Museveni in the eastern part of Uganda. He was in journalism by then, working at 93.1 UFM Mbale. There's a time he came to meet journalists at Mbale Resort, mobilizing for the same gentleman.
Yes.
So if he has been a system that retired Colonel Kizza Besigye has contested on several occasions, what gives Ugandans a chance that probably it's not going to be a chaotic. You know, when there is chaos and violence in an election, the country's economy goes down to the
country's economy definitely fails. But the thing is, what I want people to be aware of, and General has said it, this is a completely different scenario now. So the thing is, people need to go out there and vote and make sure that their vote is secured. That's what he said. People need to go out there and vote and make sure that their vote is secured. Now, you may read so much into that, but for me, I'm just going to say that that's what it should be. Go out and vote. Yesterday, I was on a border, and this man was taking me back home, and he said, I said, have you voted yet? You know, have you voted for you? Have you already voted? No, they haven't. Go and vote and make sure.
What are your strategies of safeguarding this election? You know, we've always seen the Power 10 and, you know, all those sorts of groups created towards elections.
The safeguards is a public. It's a public. And that's what...
but of course, you cannot bank on the public.
Why not?
For your success.
Why not?
You must strategize and have, of course, cliques that are actually going to safeguard this election.
The public. You go and vote.
The public you're talking about, yes. Mr. Katabalwa, are the people who support Shagulanya, the people who support Mr. Museveni and the others.
Yes.
So you can't just bank on the public. It's ambiguous.
But if you do not bank on the public, then you're working outside the perimeters of the law.
Not really.
If you go and, this is what we're saying, you go and vote and protect your vote. Protect your vote. Make sure that your vote counts. Now, if you are going to start thinking of other methods at the moment, you know, you're on a slippery slope. Go and vote and protect your vote. Now, the thing is that the general the other time was actually questioning the number of polling stations that are around. I can't remember the figures, but he was saying that you should go out and vote and protect your vote. Make sure that your vote is counted properly. Now, that is going to protect the democracy of Uganda when we've got the correct result.
Geno is quoted on record several times, condemning, that was before, condemning, leaders coming from the same region, especially the Western region, to be specific with one of the local TV stations. Doesn't this give a worry at one point that maybe somebody intruded their thing as army generals, and maybe he wasn't benefiting from it, and then he goes on now, of course, to contradict his own self, saying, I think Western Uganda still needs a chance, let us rule. Yet he was on record quoted saying, no, I think maybe we need other regions to also benefit from this country. Don't you think at the time he spoke that, he was eating well, and maybe when he saw things going bad for him and sacked from the position of minister, and then he says, maybe I can rule, don't you think all this campaign and presidential thing is a camouflage for a personal benefit on the side of General TUMUKUNDE?
There's absolutely that's absolutely not true. But let's first go back. I want to also address your what you said about leaders coming from the same region. There is an argument to support that. But I think what is important for all Ugandans is to get somebody who is capable and who knows and who can lead this country. Now, we have had issues and we've had arguments where people say that power needs to be rotated around Uganda. And I think that is a conversation that everybody welcomes. Let's have that conversation. Let's have that discussion and find out how beneficial that will be to Uganda. But should that then say that at this point in time we are going to exclude people from the West because they have dominated? I mean, we're talking about one person. Yes, there are arguments that people from the West occupy quite a number of positions within influential positions in society. But let's look at someone's capabilities and abilities to lead this country. And I'm convinced that General TUMUKUNDE has those abilities and capabilities to lead this country. The issue that comes from the West should not be that is a point of birth.
There is a need for change, reading from what you, the General himself, and other political contestants say. The underlying point then is that there is a problem which needs to be solved. What, according to the renewed Uganda, is the real problem of this country, and how does it get saved? How does Uganda get saved from that problem?
We are, first of all, our manifesto here talks about quite a number of problems that need to be solved. But let me pick out one, and this is something that also is probably, if I was a politician, I always tell people I'm a communicator, I'm a communications person. I'm not necessarily a politician, but if I was a politician, this is something that is quite close to heart. It's education. The General talks about quite a number of things on health, on infrastructure, on international relations. But let me just bring out one thing that affects most of us, education. We have an education system in Uganda that at the moment is not yet still fit for purpose. We have an education system in Uganda where people are living, primary schools, especially the ones under UPE, and they are still illiterate. We have an education system in Uganda which is teaching students things that they really don't need to be taught about. This is my argument. I was sitting in your same seat there when I was still working here. When I was having a conversation, I've got this gripe where people are taught things that they don't need to be taught. For example, myself, when I was at high school, I went through high school not understanding anything until I got to the end and I understood journalism. So we do have to look at what our education system is churning out. There are people who are talking about, we need people coming out who are job seekers, job creators, not job seekers. We need job seekers who have got the capacity and the qualifications We need job seekers who are competitive, but we also need people who can provide those jobs. So when we talk about an education system that at the moment is not yet fit for purpose, that is something that Renewed Uganda is very intent on making sure that, first of all, we've got teachers who are teaching, we've got teachers who are qualified, we've got students who actually go to school and they're being taught relevant stuff, and we've got people who are live the education system when they're actually competitive, whether they are job seekers or job creators, whether on the international market or the local market. So so that's one of the things that is very central to our campaign. But having said that, there are other things, especially that deals with the economy, on taxation, on access to credit from smaller firms, on a taxation system that is actually helps people to grow their business, but also on a taxation system that people understand. Because there are people, from where I come from in Mutambala, people don't understand the taxation system, yet they want benefits from government. Then when you tell them, so there are quite a number of things health, there are quite a number of things, but as I said earlier on, I wanted to just highlight the education system in Uganda, that we want to actually make it fit for purpose.
Well, our time is fast spent and we can't go beyond this, but as we conclude, Mr. Katabalwa, what do you have to say to the electorates out there, and if you are watching the Daybreak this morning?
To the who?
To the electorate.
To the electorate.
And of course, the viewer out there watching the Daybreak this morning. This
is definitely a different election from what we've known. I've been able to understand and participate in the last elections in 2016 and this one. Ugandans need to sit back and actually elect someone who is going to effect change. And change that we're not just speaking about, but change that is actually, change that you can smell, change that you can touch. That person, in my view, is the person, in my view, who can deliver that change is General Henry Tumukunde. And I do ask the electorate out there to vote for Renewed Uganda and to vote for General Henry Tumukunde.
Well, thank you so much. That's Arthur Katabalwa, who is the spokesperson of the Renewed Uganda, which is Lieutenant General Henry Kakurugu Tumukunde, which he formed to ensure that maybe Uganda gets change and becomes renewed, just as he appreciates his efforts to renew Uganda. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi, and we've been discussing the journey to Uganda State House, trying to see whether the opposition in Uganda can actually defeat President Yoweri Museveni come 2021 for Uganda's top job, which is the presidency. But we've also been examining exactly zeroing down to one of the presidential candidates, who is Lieutenant General Henry Kakurugu Tumukunde, understanding what he has to offer to Ugandans. And well, his spokesman here, Arthur Katabalwa, speaks with a lot of confidence and hope that a renewed Uganda awaits come 2021 January 14th. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi, and that's all I had for you this morning. But at 2 p.m, get the UG Poll Show here on Record TV with Ibrahim Lubika Kasinga, and 6 p.m, that is the one on Awali Luganda News Bulletin by Fiona Nabukera. And of course, the 8:30 Speak Uganda English News Bulletin with Shamim Nabakoza. That's all we had for you this morning. Keep tuned to Record TV. Have a lovely morning. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi.